Okay, so picture this. You've got a kid, right? Let's call him Jordan. Bright, super energetic, loves to play. But he had this really strange problem. Every single day, right about when the sun started to set, his evenings felt like they were just magically vanishing into thin air. Now, have you ever had something disappear on you? Usually, it's a missing sock or maybe the last piece of your favorite candy. But for Jordan, it was time itself. It was literally just gone. So, today we are going to become time detectives. We're going to dive into this explainer and figure out exactly what was happening to Jordan's evenings, and more importantly, how he learned to get them back.
So, the big question is, where did his evenings actually go? I want you to think about your own day for a second. And yeah, parents, you can do this too. Do you ever feel like your free time just goes poof and completely vanishes? Think about it. You get home from school and boom, suddenly there's soccer practice. Then before you even know it, you're sitting down for dinner, maybe having some family time, and then you accidentally fall into a sneaky, fun little YouTube spiral. We've all been there. Next thing you know, it's bedtime, and you haven't even touched your homework. You start feeling totally stressed thinking, where did the time go? I didn't have a single second to get anything done. Well, that is exactly how Jordan felt every single night. He was absolutely convinced there just weren't enough hours in the day.
Now, Jordan was a pretty smart kid, so he thought he had it all figured out. He confidently believed that his lack of time was just a discipline problem. Now, that's kind of a big word, but it basically means he thought he was just being lazy. He thought he wasn't trying hard enough and that he just needed to force himself to work harder. But, as we're going to uncover in our explainer today, that wasn't the truth at all. It was actually just a simple arithmetic problem. Literally a math problem. The hours were totally there, but the way Jordan was adding them up in his head, it just wasn't right. He didn't need to be so hard on himself, he just needed to do a little bit of time math.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the real culprit here is just so sneaky. It's something called the planning fallacy. Sounds like a big, boring science term, I know, but it's really just a tricky illusion. Have you ever thought building a massive Lego castle would only take 10 minutes and suddenly 2 whole hours have zoomed by? Or maybe you thought cleaning your room would take all day, but you did it in 5 minutes? Our brains are really funny that way. The planning fallacy is this little trick our brains play on us, making us underestimate time, which makes us feel so much busier and way more overwhelmed than we actually are. Jordan was totally a victim of this exact brain trick, and it was completely hiding his free time from him.
So, right when Jordan was feeling completely defeated by his vanishing time, someone really special stepped in to help. Enter Miss Reyes. She was the clever, super kind school counselor who always knew exactly how to solve a tough puzzle. And you know what? Miss Reyes didn't tell Jordan to just work harder. Nope. Instead, she smiled and gave him a top-secret assignment. It was a 1-week mission that honestly felt almost too simple to work. She handed him this little journal and said, "For the next 7 days, I want you to write down exactly what you do every single hour. Not what you plan to do, but what you actually do." Jordan accepted the mission, feeling like a real scientist observing his own life.
Fast forward 7 days. Jordan comes back to Miss Reyes, and he is just absolutely stunned. Let's trace the timeline he recorded in his journal. At 5 p.m., he was running around at soccer practice. Makes sense. At 6:30 p.m., he was sitting down for dinner and enjoying family time. But then, if we look really closely at what he wrote down, what happened next? Between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m., there was this strange, mysterious gap. Nothing was written down. This was the missing time. For 2 whole hours, Jordan hadn't been doing homework, but he hadn't really been doing anything super fun either. He was just kind of floating, worrying about his homework and just letting the time slip right through his fingers.
And here is the grand, climactic twist of our story: 90. When Ms. Reyes and Jordan finally did the math, they realized something absolutely incredible. Jordan actually had an average of 90 hidden minutes of completely free time every single evening. 90 minutes. You guys, that's an hour and a half, just waiting there, hidden in plain sight. Because he hadn't been treating it like time he was actually in charge of, it had just drifted away. Imagine finding out you had 90 extra minutes every single night. Think of all the amazing things you could do with that time once your chores and homework were totally done.
So, how do we get that time back? Well, to help Jordan capture this hidden treasure of time, Ms. Reyes helped him build something she called a time skeleton. Now hold on, I know what you might be thinking. A skeleton? That sounds spooky and rigid, right? But I promise you kids, and parents too, this is not a scary, strict schedule that traps you. It's actually a super light, magical tool for freedom. Think about your own body for a second. Your skeleton is inside you, holding you up so you can run and jump and dance. Without it, you'd just be a floppy puddle on the floor. A time skeleton does the exact same thing for your evening. It gives your night just enough structure to hold it up, so you have the freedom to actually play and have fun.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how simple it is to build. It's just 3 wonderfully simple steps. Step 1. Decide your study slot in advance. For Jordan, it was 7 to 7:45 p.m. Step 2. Show up without negotiating. Now, this is the real magic part. Deciding in advance stops you from wasting 15 whole minutes arguing with yourself. You know that little voice that says, "Oh, I'll do it in 5 minutes. Okay, maybe 10 minutes. You completely quiet that voice because the decision is already made. And then step 3, the absolute best step of all. Enjoy guilt-free play after 8 p.m. No more worrying about the homework you haven't done because guess what? It's already finished.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because, it didn't happen perfectly overnight, and that is completely okay. In week 1, Jordan followed his new skeleton 4 out of 5 days. That's a fantastic start. By week 2, he conquered all 5 out of 5 days, and by week 3, the routine literally became a low-effort superpower. Jordan didn't suddenly develop iron willpower or force himself to be miserable. He just unlocked the superpower of making the decision ahead of time. He didn't have to summon this giant mountain of motivation every evening. He just had to show up to the spot he had already built for himself.
And that brings us to the beautiful moral of Jordan's adventure, which is perfectly captured in this quote. Structure isn't the enemy of freedom, it's what creates it. It kind of sounds like a riddle, doesn't it? But it is beautifully true. When you set your study time in advance and you just follow your magical time skeleton, the rest of your evening completely transforms. It goes from the stressful blur of worrying about what you haven't done into a completely guilt-free playground. It becomes a safe, cozy space for you to rest, play your favorite games, read a wonderful book, and just completely recharge for the next day.
All right, so now it is your turn. I have a special challenge just for you. I want all the kids and parents watching to become time detectives yourselves today. Grab a piece of paper, get some colorful markers, and draw a rough map of your own evening. Trace your steps from the exact moment you get home until your head hits the pillow. Where are your hidden 90 minutes? I promise you, if you look really closely, you will find pockets of magical, missing time just waiting to be discovered and turned into a wonderful time skeleton of your very own.
Man, what an incredible journey we've had today solving the mystery of the missing time. If you love joining Jordan on this adventure in today's Explainer, we would be absolutely thrilled to have you join our family here at Story Spark Studio. Please, click that subscribe button, ring the bell so you never miss out on our new magical stories, and be sure to share this with all your friends so they can find their hidden time too. And hey, before you go, drop a comment below and tell me, what was your absolute favorite part of Jordan's adventure? And what are you going to do with your hidden 90 minutes? Remember, time isn't just something that disappears, it's something you have the power to create. Go out there and make some magic. Thank you so much for exploring with me today, and I will see you in our next wonderful story.